Mr. Charles Booker. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, brother. It's good to be back with you.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. It's definitely good to have you on. I want to start here. You ran for U.S. Senate in 2020 to unseat Mitch McConnell. You lost to Amy McGrath. Sadly, she did not win. But you formed a committee to explore running for U.S. Senate against Rand Paul in 2022. I think Rand Paul is dangerous, destructive. At this point, he's an anti-vaxxer. But tell me where you are in this committee and your thoughts of considering running against him.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're exactly right. I stepped out on behalf of the people of Kentucky um, to say that someone like Mitch McConnell, who calls himself the Grim Reaper, should not be preying on us and depriving us of a future. But the reality is, man, as you know very well, Kentucky has two very ridiculous, terrible, shameful, embarrassing senators. And the work that I've been lifting up about transforming our future, addressing structural inequity, structural racism, that is not about any one person. It is about us transforming our politics so that we can change our future. And that work is the work of a lifetime, man. And, I launched this exploratory really in response to the people of Kentucky that were saying, we hear you. We know that change is needed, and we're ready to stand for it. I launched this organization, Hood to the Holler, based on that spirit, of us building new coalitions to break down barriers to democracy and inspire a new wave of leadership. And we still have to do that work. And so this exploratory to me is a declaration of we need change. We need it yesterday. We need leaders that are going to fight for us and not against us, but this is not a decision that I can make alone because it's not about me. It's about the people. I'm from the hood, man. I'm from the west end of Louisville. And we are always told what we want. Nobody asks us. Nobody listens to us. Nobody listens to the people of Kentucky. I don't operate like that. So this exploratory is my way of saying, I'm going to listen to you from day one so that we can make this decision together. And the momentum has been incredible already, man. And I'm fired up about it.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you this though: Why do you think? What do you think went wrong, or what do you think? Why do you think you didn't win against Amy McGrath?
Well, in a lot of ways, we did win. Now, we didn't win at the ballot box, but what we
Hmm.
did win is that we inspired so many Kentuckians to finally believe that things could actually be different. We saw folks that had voted for Trump in 2016 that were organizing with me. We saw folks that had never voted before that were banging on the doors to get in to vote because they finally believed that if they did now, it would make a difference. And there's a reality, man. Money is a big factor in our politics, and we were up against the most well-funded Senate primary in history. And so, to do what we did, inspire a new dynamic of politics, and show the country you should not take places like Kentucky for granted, was a huge win. And now we're here to build on that because not only are we here to organize and to build coalitions, which is the long term work, we need to have people in office that are going to be accountable to it. And I'm excited to see so many dedicated, hardworking, loving Kentuckians that are stepping out on faith and really just getting past the cynicism of what can be and saying we're going to make a new future together. And so, if anything gets an understanding that you cannot ignore the people of Kentucky, and we have to build this big coalition. Now, the part that's excited for me right now is, a lot of the outside interests that were really trying to tell Kentuckians what we wanted and what we deserved in our political process, that were blocking me out and really saying, "Oh, that's not possible. A black man from the hood, he can't stand up for the people of Kentucky and mount the type of campaign that would make a difference." Now those folks are saying, "Okay, wait a minute, we missed it." So we're going to stand with you from the beginning. And we can build a big coalition that doesn't run away from the issues, that doesn't back down, that is authentic and about the people. And I'm proud and excited to help tell that story.
Got you. So, money is definitely an issue in these campaigns. I was talking to the man Marcus Flowers, who's running against. I can't stand saying her name, but running against Margie Taylor Greene in Georgia.
Yeah.
Another person that the Republican Party has just obviously lost their mind. lost their mind for a while now. But one of the things that when I talk to black candidates and Democratic black candidates who are running in, let's just be frank, predominantly white areas, especially areas that have a legacy of Jim Crow, it does feel like an uphill battle. I will always say the reason why Tim Scott became a senator in South Carolina is because he was the black Republican. And when I think about Kentucky, I don't see. I know we have Louisville, but I don't see a Atlanta area in Kentucky like in Georgia for Reverend Warnock to win. Just to be frank with you, how we know racism is still an issue. How do you, as a black man, if you do decide to run, how do you run in a state like Kentucky that's 89% white? It is deeply conservative, and they keep on reelecting Mitch McConnell. This means you
Yeah.
have to convince plenty of white folks, white Republicans, to come on your side. How do you do that?
Yeah, well, what you said is so true, man. And first of all, there's an acknowledgement here that the issues that we see in communities like mine, in an area that is largely Black, Louisville is still one of the more segregated cities in the country. These issues are true all over Kentucky. And one of the most important things we have to do in lifting up a new wave and dynamic in our leadership is understand our common bonds. I mean, you're right. I mean, on a good day, the population percentage of Black folks in Kentucky is around 10 or 11%. It's typically around 8 or 9. And so this is not about just simply turning out the base in the way that we usually think about it. We got to build a new base. And for me, it's not really convincing anyone. It's showing the people of Kentucky that we're actually already standing together. And as soon as we see one another and see our common bonds and fight together, we're unstoppable. Um, we're right on the issues. You go anywhere in Kentucky and talk to folks, they're going to tell you they want healthcare. I mean, I've had to ration my insulin. I nearly died from that. That's not a partisan thing. It's not something that only Black people face. It is something that people all over Kentucky, from the hood to the holler, know about. And putting food on the table, keeping the lights on, being safe in your home, having clean water, clean air, those are not partisan things. And I think there was a reality here that Donald Trump, and we had our own mini Donald Trump and Matt Bevin before that, helped to really expose, is that when you call out the reality that the system is broken, people are like, well, thank goodness somebody's saying it. Because Donald Trump was telling people across Kentucky the system is broken and they were being left behind. And they're looking at jobs leaving, they're looking at opportunities that are far gone. They're seeing their family members suffering from the opioid addiction and opioid crisis. And they're saying, you know what? The system is broken. Well, my response is yes, it's broken, but the only way we fix it is if we do it together. And I think this is what's most powerful for me, and why this story in this moment in Kentucky is so important, because we cannot build a better future in our country if we don't take on structural racism and unpack the ills of what is essentially a Southern strategy, and build a new Southern strategy that's rooted on love and unity. And if we do that in Kentucky, we can do it anywhere.
I agree, and I just wish the late great Fred Hampton would talk about this, and so many other civil rights leaders. I just wish that poor white folks knew how much in common they have with other poor folks. I mean, the minimum wage in Kentucky is $7.25 an
Yeah.
hour. How? My God, that's insane. $7.25. I mean, poor folks, middle class folks, there's so much that we have in common that we can get on
Yeah.
the same page with. And for me, I'm not about partisan politics. But at
Right.
this point, that the Democratic Party, they want to raise that minimum wage. That's what they want to do. If the Republican Party was for that, I'd be for them, but they're not for that. So
Right.
I really, I want folks to really hear what you're saying, because there's so much that we have in common on a class basis. But I have to ask you this. Of course, Breonna Taylor. Uh,
Yeah.
then we have Daniel Cameron, who's horrible. But what are your thoughts on Merrick Garland announcing the Justice Department investigation into the Louisville Police Department?
When I heard that the Attorney General was going to make this announcement, it hurt, but I was also relieved. This is really a culmination of a lot of folks, not only in Louisville, but across Kentucky that have been organizing over the past year plus, even before Breonna's door was busted down. We've been organizing to fight for true justice and accountability. But in that moment, when the whole Commonwealth found out that a young Black woman's door was busted in and she was shot and killed in the dead of night by the agency she paid for to protect and serve her, I think it shook the conscience of us all. And we started crying out together in the streets, literally. And this response of this investigation is a measure of accountability to that. And I want to let all of those folks that have been organizing, demonstrating, know that your voices matter. But you got to look at it too, man, that the mayor and the chief of police applauded the fact that this investigation was happening, which in one way is just really crushing because it's an acknowledgement that they have not been able to do anything about it. But it's also encouraging because they realize that this is needed. So, I think this is a moment where we're trying to fully fund and invest in community safety. We actually want our communities to be safe. So we got to deal with the challenges. We got to look at them. We can't look away from them and dismiss them like Rand Paul would like for us to do.
If you decide to run for U.S. Senate and you win, and Rand Paul is no longer there, I will come to Kentucky and have a party. If that happens, you will see me. I'll bring the entire SiriusXM Urban View family there. But that said, if you ran and you won, it would require you to work with Republicans. And one of the things that I'm not a politician, but I struggle with, how do you work with people who do not agree with just basic facts and history?
Yeah.
Senator Tim Scott is a Black man in the South who will say, I'm stopped by the cops, but he does not believe in systemic racism. Mitch McConnell fighting against the 1619 Project, which is basically just some Black history, just some actual,
Yeah.
factual history. And there's things, Rand Paul not believing in science. I don't know how I can work with somebody who does not believe in facts. And sometimes I feel like Democrats are too passive and they try and say, "Oh, we're going to work with you no matter what," and they ain't trying to work with us. You know, if
Yeah.
if if they get control of that Senate, they will end that filibuster and then put it back in. They'll do that. They're on the Republican side. So
Right.
if you were in this space, Mr. Booker, how do you work with people who don't believe in facts and figures and stats and science?
Well, the first thing that I think is really important for us to understand in our politics is a lot of these people that are in office don't actually represent the people overall. And that's the thing that pisses me off the most about the way that people look at Kentucky. They judge us based on the people that are in the United States Senate that are supposed to represent us, and they don't. And one thing we have to be very clear on, we have to we have to run to these issues of structural racism and disarm them. We can't run away from them because you have folks like Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul that are weaponizing them. And like you said, having that basic level of fact and understanding of history is critical for us to build together. If we don't know where we came from, how can we figure out where we're going? But the thing that encourages me is that as I go all over Kentucky, the majority of folks across Kentucky know that we need change. They know that racism is real. They know we need to do the work of pulling it up by the roots. We just need leaders with the courage to speak that truth. Tim Scott knows the truth. So does Mitch McConnell. And I don't know if Rand Paul does. He should. But most folks know. And now it's just a matter of us saying that we're not going to stoke these divides and succumb to them and just concede that narrative anymore. And man, in terms of working with folks, on different sides of the aisle, to me, that really isn't an aisle. We're all in this damn thing together. And, when I was in the state legislature, two of the biggest accomplishments for me in passing legislation were with Republican members. And, we voted differently on pretty much everything else, but we found a common bond. We were both type 1 diabetics, myself and the other co-sponsor. And so we worked on legislation to make it easier for people to get their insulin and to cap monthly co-pays. If you find those common bonds, you can build. And that's what we need in, statesman-like leadership. That's what we need right now. And that's the type of leader I want to be.